He sat aside some time to meditate by himself, communing with the Father in solitary, sublime prayer. All who are on earth are there for the purpose of reaching a higher level of evolution by means of the work they have been called to do. And through prayer, they receive indispensable help from God for the sanctification of their task. Work and prayer complement each other in every spiritual activity. Those who do nothing but work without method or rest will end up in despair, in a dreadful dryness of heart. Those who do nothing but spend all their time on their knees will be in danger of succumbing to inertia and idleness. Prayer illuminates work, and work is like a book of light for the spiritualized life. Mind your duties because that is why you are in the world. But never forget that mountain located in the highest sentiments of your heart, so that you may pray away from the others as the Lord Jesus used to do. And I do apologize because I was speaking with Diogo earlier today, and he was giving me some tips on basically how to read a little bit less and speak a little bit more. So I do promise next time I'll do a little more speaking and a little less reading. But today I did prepare a reflection here, and feel free to interrupt if anyone feels the need to add to my reading here. But basically, my analysis of Emmanuel's message is like this. So I said, this verse contains a profound spiritual lesson, of course. Emmanuel uses it to teach us about the importance of balancing prayer with spiritual work and inner transformation. When we observe the life of Jesus, we notice something very important. He never separated himself completely from humanity. He lived among the people. He listened to suffering souls. He healed the sick, comforted the afflicted, forgave offenses, and guided others towards God. But at the same time, after the labor of the day, he would seek moments of silence and solitude to pray. This shows us that spiritual life is not built only through contemplation, nor only through external activity. Both are necessary. Prayer gives us strength, direction, and clarity, while spiritual work allows us to apply divine teachings in daily life. Emmanuel warns us about two imbalances that can harm our spiritual growth. The first is action without spiritual connection. A person may become so occupied with responsibilities, tasks, or even religious activities that they neglect their inner renewal. Without prayer, reflection, and communion with God, the soul can become spiritually dry. Sometimes people continue helping others externally, but internally, they begin to feel irritated, discouraged, impatient, or simply emotionally exhausted. This can happen even in spiritual environments. Why? Because service without inner nourishment eventually loses its light. Prayer renews the heart and reminds us why we serve. It purifies our intentions. The second imbalance is remaining only in prayer or spiritual idolism without true transformation. People seek spirituality emotionally or intellectually, but may avoid the difficult inner work required for real growth. It's easy to pray, it's hard to forgive. It's easy to speak about love, but it's a lot harder to practice patience with difficult people. It's easy to admire the gospel, but it's very hard to discipline our pride, selfishness, and impatience. This is why Emmanuel teaches that prayer and effort complement one another. One without the other creates imbalance. Prayer should not become an escape from life, and activity should not make us forget God. One of the most noble ideas that I found to be present in this chapter is the image of the mountain, where Jesus went to pray. Emmanuel explains that this mountain is also symbolic. It exists within us. The mountain represents that sacred inner place where we become silent. It's the place of consciousness, reflection, sincerity, and spiritual renewal. And we climb this mountain every day, even in the middle of ordinary life. Sometimes we climb this mountain through a sincere prayer before beginning the day, sometimes through silence during moments of struggle, sometimes by examining our conscience before going to sleep at night. We may say things like, where did I fail today? How could I have loved more? And how could I improve my inner work? Emmanuel also helps us to understand that spiritual work is not limited to visible religious activities. Often, the greatest spiritual victories happen silently within the soul. For example, controlling anger when we feel offended, choosing kindness instead of revenge, practicing patience in difficult situations, helping someone without expecting praise or recompense, and praying for someone who may have hurt us in the past. These struggles may seem small externally, but spiritually they are immense. True spiritual growth happens gradually through daily effort. And this is comforting because it means that every person has opportunities for spiritual work and growth, regardless of their profession, status, or circumstances. A few examples I wrote here too would be a parent practicing patience with their child, a healthcare worker comforting someone in pain, and even a student acting honestly in his work can be considered spiritual work. Someone silently fighting against negative thoughts and trying to become better each day is also performing spiritual work. This small chapter reminds us that our presence on earth has a purpose. We are not here only to exist materially, but to evolve spiritually, to develop love, compassion, faith, and charity. Prayer helps illuminate this path. Without prayer, we may lose direction. Without effort, prayer remains incomplete. Jesus himself gave us this example. He served humanity actively, but he also protected his inner connection with the Father through moments of solitude and prayer. He showed us that the soul needs both service and silence, action and reflection, effort and communion with God. So that I believe the message that Emmanuel leaves for us is actually very practical. Let us fulfill our spiritual responsibilities in the world, but never neglect the inner mountain of prayer. Let us pray sincerely, but also work on ourselves. Let us not only acknowledge the gospel, but work with the gospel to transform the world around us. Because when prayer illuminates our hearts and spiritual efforts guide our actions, little by little, the soul becomes more peaceful, humble, and capable of love, which is the sublime law. And perhaps this is the true goal of spiritual life, becoming each day a little closer to the example that Christ gives. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I'd like to invite Mackenzie back for our lecture on the night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fabio. So as I said in the beginning, I'm going to be here and we're going to talk and discuss a little bit about, this is one of the covers, and we are finishing chapter number 15. Without charity, there is no salvation. That's the title of the chapter. And it's also the title of the item that we are going to discuss here tonight. It's item number 10, and it's a message that was received in Paris in the year 1860. It's been a while now. And it's said to have been given by Paul. Is we usually call him on our day-to-day basis either Paul of Tarsus or Saint Paul, which is one of the earliest writers of the Gospels. Before I start here with the message itself, I would like to give a probably just a little brief of an introduction of who Paul was or who Paul is. So, Paul was a Jew, just like Jesus was a Jew. So they both followed the Jewish tradition. They were Jewish. But Paul was a little more than just Jewish. Paul was also Greek. by birth, and also Roman, because he was born under the Roman Empire. So what does that actually mean? When we get here to the United States, right, first coming from Brazil, most of us citizens can do. Even after we become citizens, there are a few things that we cannot do because we were not born here. Paul was a citizen because he was born under under the Roman Empire. So he was a citizen of Rome. But also he was educated in Greece, which made him a citizen of Greece. Rome was an empire that took care of a lot of different places. There were countries, so it was a character, was going to become a rabbi, which is more like a priest or someone that comes and studies and comes to teach and stuff. So he was what we can, what some scholars call him a citizen of three different worlds, because he was a religious person of the Jewish community, but he spoke Greek, which was one of the main languages of the time, if not the main language of the time. But he also learned Hebrew, and he had the best citizenship card that you could ever get at that time. He was Roman. He was under the Roman Empire, and he was born wealthy. He was born rich under a good family. So he could freely walk around anywhere he wanted. He would just say, I'm Roman. He would present his papers, and nobody could touch him because he could do whatever he wanted in that sense. And that helped him a lot while traveling after he became a follower of Jesus. That helped him walk around through lots of different places. He was actually in prison sometimes. And when people tried to make him almost kill him, he would say to the judge, I'm a Roman citizen. They would get so scared because they were doing something to a citizen that they would set him free. You go right away. You just move, and then he would say, there was a point where he said, no, I'm going to stay here. And now you stay here with me. And then he would teach them. So he would use his prerogative of being a citizen and say, hey, now you did this to me. Everything's fine. I'm not going to do anything. I just want to present you what my master taught me, what Jesus taught me. And then he would teach the gospel to those guys. And some of them would even later on become Christians too. So instead of using it like they were using to punish him, he would just say, hey, let's do something here. So that's just one anecdote of what Paul was. So when we start becoming a Christian, be a Catholic, be a Spiritist, be whatever, it doesn't matter. When we become a Christian, when we start learning Jesus' story, we start learning from what? Who was Jesus? We start learning where he was born, that he was born in a manger with the three kings came to worship him. That's how we usually start learning from what Jesus was, right? Christmas time, whatever. So we learn all that, then we learn a little bit more of his story, and then we learn, start learning some of the teachings and so on. But let's go back to about 2,000 years ago. Paul, right? Or let's say Peter, which is Saint Peter, right? But Peter met Jesus when Jesus was 30. Peter didn't meet Jesus when he was born. So in a certain sense, not even Peter knew what we know today. Paul didn't even meet Jesus. in person. He didn't even see Jesus like Peter did, like Matthew did, like the other apostles did, like a lot of people did. When Paul comes to learn of Jesus, Jesus had already passed away a few years prior to that. So Paul never saw Jesus before he was dead. He sees Jesus because Jesus comes and talks to him, but Jesus just appears to him like in a spiritual vision. Paul was leading him. So Paul is I was going to say Paul is driving. Can you imagine 2,000 years ago, Paul driving a car in the desert? No, he was riding a horse, right? So he was riding a horse. And he fell from the horse, and then Jesus shows up to him. And then after that, Paul becomes what he became. At that point, he was not even called Paul, he was called Saul. Saul of Tarsus, which was Paul didn't know Jesus. He didn't meet Jesus. He met Jesus through some writings of a person, which Emmanuel says that it was Levi, which is the same as Matthew. Levi was his name, but then he changed his name to Matthew. And then so the Gospel of Matthew is the same. So Emmanuel in the book Paul and Stephen, he says that Levi started taking notes on stories about Jesus, which was what became later on the Gospel of Matthew, which we have today in the Bible. And then we have three more Gospels in the Bible: Luke, Mark, and John. So we have four Gospels. Once again, when Paul came, there was no Bible as we have today. There was no New Testament. There was almost zero writings. The only writings he had were some writings, which we don't know exactly what it was the start of what today we have as the Gospel of Matthew, or the Gospel of Jesus according to Matthew. Those were the manuscripts that Paul had at his hands, and that's what he studied. Not only him, all the other apostles. Later on, other apostles will write their own Gospels, will write their own stories of hearsay or talking to people, say, oh, Jesus said that, and merging stuff from the other Gospels. So we had Mark, Luke, Matthew, and then we had John. John only wrote his gospel probably like 40 years after Jesus, far away, and he writes in such a different way. That is, it doesn't even look like the same gospel as the other three. So it's like three are kind of one, and then there's this one that hangs over here. And they complement each other. It's really fascinating when we go to that story. But coming back to Paul, when Paul is walking and he's traveling, when he's riding, or when he's walking, to go and preach the word or teach to other people, to other towns, what does he have? What kind of knowledge he has to go and pass on to people? He only has what he talked a little bit with the other disciples or the other people, and he has those manuscripts. He doesn't have a lot. Comes a point in one of his travels that he stops at Ephesus. Ephesus is the town where Jesus' mother, by the way, happy Mother's Day to the ones that are mother from yesterday. Ephesus is the town where Mary, Jesus' mother, went to live after Jesus passed away. Paul goes by that town at one point, and he meets Mary. he moves, goes to a different place, and he comes back and he meets her again. And he told her that he wanted to talk to her, to hear stories about Jesus, to hear about, so that because he wanted to write a gospel. So Paul says that he wanted to write a gospel. By the way, we are Spiritists. This is not, at least as far as I know, this is not anywhere in other than the book Paul and Stephen's story. And I'm telling right now is Paul and Stephen. And I'm, telling the story and trying to get to my point. But he says that in one of the passages there that he wanted to write a gospel. He already know a little bit from what Matthew said. He's talking to other people. He met Peter, he met James, he met John, he met all the other disciples except for Judas, who had died right after Jesus died. Judas killed himself, so he didn't meet Judas. But he met all the other ones, or mostly, and then he probably talked to all of them, and he got some stories from them. So probably he was already starting to write something. And he wanted to talk to Mary, to know a little bit more about Jesus's childhood. How was he born? What happened to him? Because he was really into Jesus's life and Jesus's teachings. But at one comes a point where he cannot stay in Ephesus anymore. He feels the urge, and something is happening in his life that he needs to go to Rome, which is the capital of the Roman Empire that I was talking about. So he wants to go there, and he says that he needs to go there to preach, to bring Jesus's word there. And there's problems arise, a lot of stuff happens, and he says that he cannot stay in Ephesus with Mary anymore. And then someone comes to him, and I can't remember who it was exactly. And then he says, someone tells him, but didn't you say you wanted to stay here and talk to her and get some stories so that you can write your gospel? And he said, yeah, but I'm going to have to leave this to someone else. So can you imagine, I don't know if any of you ever wrote anything, that you're preparing to write something, whatever it is, even if you're not preparing, but if you sit down and you want to write something, you have that urge to write, and then you start writing. It's like our minds start lots of stuff start happening in our minds, because it's like our memories are like firing. So, and I remember this, and then when I write something or I think about this, then when I think about this, something else comes to mind, and then off of that, something else comes to mind, and then our minds, there was a friend of mine that used to say, I was with him, and we were trying to meditate, right? And to meditate is trying to calm your mind down, just relax. And then he would say, don't fall asleep. You're not relaxing to sleep. You're relaxing so that your mind is relaxed. We tend to think that we're going to sleep. No, you're not going to sleep. You're going to keep thinking. However, you cannot keep thinking of thinking. You have to focus on only one thing, which is keep your mind not thinking. But when you start thinking of not thinking, you're thinking. So that's why it's very hard. And then he said, the problem with that is that our mind is like a forest full of monkeys. It doesn't matter what you do. The monkeys will always try to make you go mad, because there will always be that. Those are the monkeys in our forest, in our mind, are our thoughts. They never stop. And one of the fears that the person that starts to try to meditate has is that we're going to die, quote unquote. Why? Because we associate, even in an instinctive level, we associate not thinking with being dead. So it is as if our body is trying to tell you, don't stop thinking, because if you stop thinking, you're going to die. So it's like firing up. even more monkeys. The more you try to calm them down, the more the brain starts firing. And then he says, you have to get rid of that idea. Just leave it be. If thoughts are coming, let them come. Don't worry about them. Just let them come. At one point, we will see them so much, we will get so used to them that they will see, okay, he's not worried about me anymore. And when he used to say this, we tend to think, okay, what are you talking about? You're talking about me? You're talking about, what are you talking? Because when I say, oh, the thoughts will not worry about me anymore, but the thoughts are mine, so I'm not going to be worried about. So it really gets to a point where it's kind of even weird to think about it. But he says, just let it go. Just don't worry about it. The more you practice, the more you try to let it go. If you keep to it, just like anything that we have to learn, there will come a point where you don't worry anymore. Then the thoughts will not worry anymore. Then they will stop, like slowly reducing the amount of it. And then you will notice that you can really calm your mind. But don't force calming your mind, because the more you force it, the less you can get it calm. You have to really relax, but don't sleep. Don't sleep, because it's very common from sleeping. Paul is writing. I can't imagine, and I'm just doing this exercise so that we can kind of see how much stuff he has in his mind about Jesus's life. He doesn't have it in writing. He's going to put it in writing. How much do we put it in writing? How do I put it in writing? How can I make it make sense? How can I make it work? What is more important? What is better? So I can only imagine how much work he had mentally, intellectually, to get all these teachings that he was getting from different people. In the end, he didn't write it, which is even worse, because he didn't have the chance to write it. But he left a lot of letters. While he was traveling and going through places, he would stop at a town, and then he would try to open a church, or whatever they called it at the time, an ecclesia, or whatever they want to call it. And he would gather those people, teach them all, live with them, live with them a little bit, move to a different town. They would have issues, like all the Spiritist centers, all the churches. We all have issues that we have to solve. We are just starting. Who is going to teach me? I don't have any books. We don't have any books. When we are opening the first church 2,000 years ago, where's the Bible? What do I follow if I don't have it in writing? I only have these pages of a book that it's not even a book yet. So how do I go? How do I learn? So comes a point where he says, I don't know what to do. A lot of people are asking me for help. A lot of people are asking me for help, and I don't have time. I cannot be in every single church that I've already been. And then, according to Emmanuel, Jesus comes to him and he says in a dream or through his mediumship, write to them. That's when he starts writing the letters. So we have the letters to the Ephesians. We have the letter to Philippi, the Philippians. We have the letter to the Romans. We have the letter to the Hebrews. We have the letter to the Corinthians, where we have that love is a big of all. If there was a bell that tolls, it was I don't know the precise words in English, but if we don't have love, we have nothing. In some of the translations, we can use, and we use the word, if we don't have charity. Because charity and love, in that sense that Paul means, they mean exactly the same thing. So he says literally in his letter that if we don't have love, if we don't have charity, we have the best faith in the world. We have most, the person that knows the most about the world. But in the end, if love is not what really strikes me as the most important thing, there's nothing. I'm kind of stuck in a place where maybe it would be better if I didn't have the money, if I didn't have the faith, if I didn't have none of the other things. But if I have love, if I have charity, if I have that capability or that possibility or that will to go to others, not to judge harshly the others, then I'll be better off option in my life. He writes this to the Corinthians. Why am I circling around and bringing this? The title of the chapter that we are studying and closing up tonight closes up, as I said in the beginning, with a message from Paul, and it's entitled, like the chapter, as I also said in the beginning, without charity, there is no salvation. Probably out of all around Jesus at the time, Paul was the best person to talk about this specific topic. Because even 2,000 years ago, when we want to talk about love in the Gospels, we go to Jesus' life and cite some stuff, and we go next to Paul to talk about this part in the letter of the Corinthians. So when Kardec, and that's only a guess, that's only my thinking here. When Kardec was organizing the Gospel according to Spiritism, and he had to choose messages from different people, and he found this message from Paul talking about charity, talking about love, of course that he's going to put it in this chapter. And he doesn't put it in the beginning, doesn't put it in the middle, he puts it right at the end of the chapter. So we go through all the studies that we've been doing for the past few months over this chapter 15. I don't have the date here, but it's probably like 6 or 7 months that we've been talking a little bit about this. There's even a message here. I'm going to read just a little bit, and then I'm going to jump to the message that he writes. Because what Kardec does here is the thing that I said that I can't remember the words, but he says, even if I were to speak all the languages of men and the languages of the angels themselves, if I did not have charity, I would be only like a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy and grasped all mysteries, and if I had a perfect knowledge of all things, and if I had all the faith possible to the point of moving mountains, if I did not have charity, I would be nothing. And if I were to distribute my belongings to feed the poor and delivered my body to be burned, if I did not have charity, none of this would be any use to me. And he goes further. Charity is patient, it is kind and benevolent. Charity is not envious, it is not rash or hurried, it is not full of pride, it is not scornful, it does not look after its own interests, it does not take offense or become upset by anything, it does not suspect evil, it does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Now, these three virtues remain: faith, hope, and charity. But among them, the most excellent is charity. Faith, hope, and charity. Out of these three, or these three, or these three. You know how cultures show three in different ways? Yeah, different cultures. If you go like to France, I don't know how they show it, but they will show it like this. Some cultures show it like this, and some cultures show it like this. It's funny, right? And I heard that maybe the guy was just joking. Oh, where I come from, it shows it like this. You know, it's so hard to do it, but he was making fun of because, or like this. So, going back to the topic. Three. No, this is four. Three. Faith, hope, and charity. Out of these three, charity is the biggest of them all. That's what Paul says in his letter to the Corinthians. And then Kardec puts this, makes a comment on it. But then at the end, he comes with another message from Paul. One thing that strikes me, everyone to read this message, it's a message that's a little less than a page, right? It starts right here, finishes right here. So it's a very quick message, but I invite everybody to read it. I like to make a point on what he said to the Corinthians and then bring to this message. There's one part that strikes me as very, very powerful in this message to the Corinthians when he says like this, because when we think about charity, let's do some charity, right? Usually what we think of charity is giving something to someone. If we are a little bit more like forward thinking, we can think of charity, of giving something, but not necessarily physical, not necessarily, I'm going to give food to the poor, I'm going to give water to the person, or I'm going to give, I don't know, maybe I'm going to pay something that the person needs. So when we think of charity, that's what we think. That's usually what we think, right? That's why some people don't like to make this connection between love and charity. Because unfortunately, over time, we kind of changed the meaning of this word charity. And it was supposed to be love. But my question is also, what is love? Then there's a song that says, what is love, right? So what is love? Everybody will have, I'm in love with someone, right? Someone loves me. But I love my dog. I love my daughter. I love my wife. What does that mean? Are these this? When I'm saying I love my dog, I love my daughters, I love my wife, I love my grandsons. Do these love in these four sentences, do they mean the same thing? Are they talking exactly about the same type of thing, or is it a different thing? And this is a philosophical question, but also is a question that we need to stop and think about it. What does it really mean? I love this food. Do you love more this food, or you love your wife more? You love your husband more, right? Because we use the same verb to describe two completely different things, and then we kind of get confused by and then go back to the song. What is love? But So what is this love? What is this charity that Paul is talking about? And one thing that he says in this letter kind of gives us a hint that he's not talking about this charity that we have in mind. Because he says, and I'm going to repeat it, if I were, so if I were to do something, that's how he starts. If I were to give, to distribute, to give my belongings, everything that I own, if I were to give everything that I have, my clothes, my money, my car, my house, if I were to give all the things that I have, isn't this like charity? Like we're giving something to someone. That's what usually that's what we think about what charity is. Not necessarily give all my things, but give things. Oh, I have this thing here. I'm going to give it to that person that needs it more than I do. So that's considered to be a charitable act, right? We're going to do our yard sale this weekend, right? On Sunday. So we ask people to come and bring stuff to center so that we can put outside, sell it, so that we can stuff here, and then we'll help other people that cannot like sometimes buy things that are more expensive, and we'll buy it at a cheaper price, use it, and also the money will help. So it helps both ways. So in a certain sense, this is charity, right? As we think about it. But look what Paul says. He says, if I were to distribute my belongings, so I mean, if we're doing something, if we're giving something, and if I'm giving of something that belongs to me, that's even more charitable, right? That's even more because, I mean, I can, there's a message in the gospel in the same book where the mother goes out with the daughter, and they are going to help a group of people, and the kid, the girl, asks the mother to give something to the lady. Not going to give what's mine so that you can give it. You have to give it from you. You have to take something that you have and you have to give it. Otherwise, it's not you. It's me. And how he teaches her daughter how to give. So what Paul is saying, and I'm going to repeat it because I think it's very important for us to make this point. And if I were to give, to distribute my belongings, to feed the poor, to give food to the poor, to really give something that is important to them, right? And delivered my body, and delivered not only the things, but delivered me, myself, my body to be burned. I don't know exactly why he's saying this, but I'm guessing, because I know a little about Paul's story, but I don't know the whole thing, and not everybody knows. But probably around the time when this is happening, probably a few people already allowed other people to kill them in the name of Jesus. Paul himself threw stones. Well, he didn't throw the stones, but he asked other people to do it for him, to kill Christians because they were following Jesus. So he says, if I delivered my body, me, myself, to be burned, to help other people, if I did not have charity, everything that I did doesn't mean anything. Because the thing is not to give. You see how subtle this is? Because it doesn't matter if I'm giving anything to anybody. The point is not giving. It's something else. It's not just the act of doing it. It's almost as if it doesn't matter that you do anything. It doesn't matter. What matters is how are you inflamed by this? How much love do you do when you do whatever you do? What is the thing that really moves you, that really like lights the fire inside of you for you to do this? Because it doesn't really. I was thinking the other day, actually, I was thinking this today when I was driving. Some people, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave something for the world to see in the world. And then I'm thinking, there are 8 billion people in the world. 8 billion people in the world. How can 8 billion people leave a legacy to the world? It does. So the point is not to make a big legacy. What's really moving me to do and live the best life I can live with the ones that are around me? That's my legacy. Oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. We can do whatever. We can do big or small. It doesn't matter. What matters is what is really moving me. See, Paul uses his personal life. He uses his personal example in that sense. He's not saying that he did this, but he's saying, if I were to give all my belongings, if I were to have my body being burned to save someone, but if at that moment that I'm trying to burn or someone is burning my body, I am thinking, oh, good, I'm going to be saved. There's something wrong. Because are we doing it to be saved? Or are we doing because we are doing? That's a big difference. It is a big difference in terms of what is my life philosophy, or my life religion, or my life science, my life religion, my life wisdom. Is it selfishness? Is it that I want everything just for myself, or that I want it for everybody? What is it? What is this love that I feel for people around me? Is it just because, oh no, someone told me that I have to love, so I have to love? Maybe that's how it starts. But if I start like moving, I have to start thinking, why am I doing it? Of course, that when we start and we still don't have that huge conscience about who we are and about how we are, about what we have on the inside, what is the ultimate life goal? What is my ultimate? It's always a moving process. It's always something that, like Jesus invited us, he says, be perfect. Be perfect is something that he's inviting us to be. He's not saying that we are going to be soon, at least. So for us to be perfect or to be close to perfect at one point, we have to keep practicing that. If we don't practice, I like my 2 preferred nurses from one from the other, but a good or a bad experience with a nurse or with a doctor when they're going to poke you with the needle, right? You have good and bad experiences. You never really know what you're going to get. If you got that person at first and he is a good nurse, or poked the wrong way is not necessarily mean that he or she is a bad nurse, but has more practice on it, right? It hurts. But some make it so that really, almost as if he didn't do anything, right? And some make it hurt like, oh my God, right? But if you're really into it and you want to learn how to do it better, the only way to do it is to practice. There's no other way. So the same way, if I want to love more, what do I need to do? There's no other way than to love. If I want to be charitable to other people, I have to learn how to be charitable. And how do I do that? It's learning how to serve others. It's learning how to be ready. When we go to, I don't know, just went to the Brazilian bakery that's right here, Main Street, right behind us. You know, I specifically like a lot this bakery because I don't know, I like the people that serve. And it's one of the greatest things is when you get to a place, right, and you're going to be served by someone, and then you can chat a little bit. The person like smiles back at you, serves you well and talk to you and talk back. And then you have a little chit chat there. And then you get to know the person a little bit. And then you feel comfortable going to that place, right? When I look at this situation, which is a very simple situation, we do that all the time. It doesn't matter where the store is. It doesn't matter what the store is. We love being treated nice by other people. And sometimes you go to a place and you're not treated well. What's the likeliness that you're going to go back to that place? We all love being treated well by people, right? The question is, how do we treat other people? It's not about how the other person treats me. Because we are all servants. We are all serving other people. When a person comes talk to me about anything, I am that person that's behind the counter. What do I expect when a person comes to, and I go to a counter to talk to the person? That the person smile, that the person says, how you doing? Good morning. What can I do for you? That's what we expect. How do we do it? What is my serve? How am I doing my service? How am I giving to other people? When a person comes to me, we all have bad days. And we have to understand this. It's natural. It's not everybody is 100% every day. We sometimes have to fix it, right? But we have our own struggles, but the goal is not to be that way one day. I'm not going to enforce me to be that way every day from now on. But we have to understand that if we don't strive to be that way, how can I ask from other people to be that way? Because that's what we do. I am not like that 100% of the time, but I certainly expect everybody else to be 100%. So it's not about yours. It's always about us. Always about us. It is hard. Of course it is hard. Anything in the world is hard. It depends how much practice we have or we don't have. I'm pretty sure that every single person here, first time the math teacher asked me, how much is 1 plus 1? I'm pretty sure that nobody got the answer right. Because we have no idea what he's even talking about. We don't even know what's plus. We don't even idea what is 1. Yesterday I was talking to my grandson. He asked me for a paper so he could draw. He starts drawing. He's 4 years old. I asked him, what are you drawing? He drew like a huge square with a circle in the middle. What are you drawing? I'm drawing numbers. What is this number? This is number 1. It's number 1. What is number 1? I have no idea what's in his mind. Number 1 for him was a square with a circle in the middle. And to him, it makes sense. If I ask him, how much is 1 by 1? 1 plus 1. What is he going to say? Maybe he already knows. Maybe his mother's already taught him. I didn't ask him. But then he starts drawing other numbers. This is 6. This is 9. Oh, this is number. He asks me, what is? And I say, oh, this is 8. And he says, no. But he says it like he knows. There's no doubt in his mind. 0 doubt. No. This is 67.8. That's what he says. And he looks at the paper and he points to it, right? He points to it and he says, almost as if he's saying, can't you see it? That is 678.
Maybe it's a formula.
Yeah, it's really like, and then there was a point he says, vovô. He calls me vovô. Oh, you're not smart. He's smart, but not smart. And for him, it makes complete sense. So he feels it, he feels down to his bones that he is correct. So when we're talking about charity in that sense, right, it's not about, knowing or about doing. It's about being there, present, doing something, but doing because you have the conviction. You're going to make a mistake. Yeah, we are going to make mistakes. That's fine. The only thing that we cannot do, or we can do because we can do whatever we want, but the only thing that we should not do is, I know that this is wrong, and then I do it. That's the only thing we can try to. We should really strive to avoid it. But if I'm really, I really feel that I should do it, and I go and do something for him, for her, for myself, and I do it, and then all of a sudden I realize that I shouldn't have done it, said, I shouldn't have done this. Move on. That's fine. It's a learning process. If we make a mistake, a true mistake, that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with this because it's through mistakes that we learn how not to do it. One day, I save that paper. Hopefully I can. And one day, when he knows what a 7 is, what a number 1 is, and I ask him what that is, he will say, I have no idea. He will say, this is a circle and this is a square. That's what he's going to say. But he will never say that that was a 1. And I'm going to tell him, no, you showed me, you told me this was 1. But it's through that process of doing a circle and a square and calling that a 1, which is not, because I know it is not, that we can learn how to one day write a number 1 and say, this now is a number 1. But we went through that process of learning. When we went through that process of learning how to love. So learn how to love is to love, even if we make a mistake, even if we make a mistake in walking through it. And that's basically what all this message about without charity, there's no salvation. It's not about giving or doing just because I'm doing it. No, it's just to feel that power that we have on the inside to be perfect. Not to strive for perfection, to be nuts and crazy. Oh, if I don't do this right, no. It's like that process that I started telling you guys of calming the mind down. I have to do it because I have to do it. Oh, if I start thinking too much, thoughts will just multiply. So I have not to think. I have to let them float. It's a natural process of, do something, expect the result. If the result didn't come, keep doing it. Keep doing it. So my advice or my invitation tonight is, if you want, chapter 15, go there and search for the piece of the letter of the Corinthians about love. It's half a page, and read it and reread it. And then read the final message of Paul when he talks about, again, without charity, there is no salvation. And hopefully with this reading and some of these thoughts, but most importantly, with some of your own thoughts, because my thoughts are just a starting point. They're just a spark, just a little thinking a little bit more widely so that we can open up our minds and let our minds flow so that we can grasp a little bit more about what this love that Jesus came here to give to us, to show to us, so that we can learn to love, to learn to spread this love more and more and more. And with this, thank you very much for your patience, for your for your attention. And before we finish, I'd like to remind everyone. I already said in the middle, right, that this next Saturday, this next Sunday, we're going to have our yard sale. That's going to be 17th. Hopefully, it will not rain. Although they said it's going to rain the whole week, I have no idea what's going to happen. But hopefully it will not rain, so we'll be there. I'll see everything. But if you want to come here to see and to maybe take a browse and see if there's something that you like or not. Also to help, we always need help to organize outside, to put prices in things, and the whole day from 10 to 3. Then we have the initial flow of people. Then it reduces the amount of work by late afternoon. Then in late afternoon, we have to organize everything again, put things back in if there's worth keeping. If not, then we donate everything. We go and drive and drop everything at a Salvation Army so that they can sell it, keep pushing it forward. On Friday night, we're going to be here tonight. We're going to be here on Friday night to organize, put prices, separate things. All this whole song becomes an organization, like with tables and separating clothes for men, for women, and all that stuff. And then on Sunday we do the outside. So if you want to come Friday night, just I don't know, talk to us or talk to Nancy or Diogo, and we're going to say what time we're going to be here to do that. Our regular announcements, Saturdays and Sundays at 7 p.m. We have our meetings like this one. Most of them are in Portuguese. This one on the second Monday. Not on the second. On the second Monday of each month, we have this meeting in English. All the other ones are in Portuguese. On Tuesdays, we have a study of Paul and Stephen, the book that I started talking about, and I started tonight, to do our gospel in home or God at home, which is to read a message from either a gospel according to Spiritism, or a book of little small messages like Palavras de Vida Eterna, or the one that Fabio read today, The Way, the Truth, and the Light. Read a message, make a comment so that we can invite the good spirits to our house. And our last invitation of the night is it's not an invitation for something here at the center. It's not for any other Spiritist group. This Wednesday, 2 days from now, on the 13th, the Museum of Science in Boston, they're having what they call a night of science and spirituality. It's a public talk. They're inviting students, they're inviting scientists, they're inviting people from the community that they're going to talk about their experiences mixing these two things, science and spirituality. It starts at 6:30 at the museum, at the Museum of Science in Boston. Actually, it's in Cambridge. Yeah. It's across the river, so it's in Cambridge. It's called the Museum of Science in Boston. It's in Cambridge. We've been there a few times with the kids when we had gospel study with the kids. We've been there with adults for other, and it's usually very nice. So it will be from 6:30 to 9. They're going to have a talk, and then apparently at the end, they're going to have some refreshments served and stuff. And they're going to have some exposition about whatever it is. I don't know. It's free. It's on their website, and you just need to go to the website and register. That's the only thing. And of course, show up. So I already made my reservation. I'll be there, and we think it's very, very interesting for us to be part of the community, see what the community is talking about spirituality in general. We learn a lot of these from these things. And if you want to go, just go to the museum. It's MOS. It's easy to remember. I think it's mos.org. And then you just find it. Science is spirituality. Or you can go to our website, because on our website there's a link to it too. So if you go to cantinho.net, you're going to find the link there too. Hopefully, with that being said, let's do our final prayer, and then we can go to the final passes of the night by thanking the good spirits once again for being here with us, for helping us with the thoughts, with the